Judge Morin of the Interstellar Court watched in bewilderment as one of the humans tore off the foam microphone cover, sniffed it curiously, and took a deliberate bite. The human chewed thoughtfully before declaring it might qualify as evidence. This marked the third such incident in the galactic courtroom that week. The matter had been brought forward by the Tazari Collective, amphibious bureaucrats whose concept of rational behavior certainly didn't include watching humans voluntarily wrestle dangerous creatures without protection, then laugh about it, while cooking their catch on spacecraft exhaust vents. The official motion, filed under Article 7 of Interspecies Behavioral Safety, demanded mandatory psychological evaluations for all human soldiers. The Tazari cited chronic unpredictability, emotional volatility, and dangerous recreational activities as justification. Their evidence included footage of a human repeatedly slapping a Kargak warrior simply because he looked like a challenge, and another human training predatory Joviak pups as ship security, naming them all after Earth condiments. With the Council's approval, rumbled Prosecutor Zolam, representing the Tazari, I'll present a series of unaltered incidents from the Atraxis conflict front lines. Judge Morin nodded slowly. The holographic screen flickered to life. The first scene showed a battlefield on Yolix 4. As plasma fire rained down, a group of shirtless human soldiers, painted with sports team symbols and armed with nothing but sandbags and a radio, charged directly into enemy lines. They blasted an ancient Earth song called Eye of the Tiger as they advanced. The enemy collapsed in disarray, not from superior tactics, but from sheer disbelief. The humans danced through. The barrage shouting jokes. One even hollered what sounded like a recipe for chili while launching a makeshift grenade constructed from a pressure cooker and spare drone batteries. The second scene depicted a human medic treating enemy wounded during a ceasefire, lecturing them about stretching, hydration, and the benefits of tactical naps. In the third scene, a lone human pilot crashed his ship into an enemy flagship, emerged from the wreckage with a fire extinguisher, and proceeded to commandeer the bridge by impersonating the alien commander's third cousin, using only a wig made of mop threads. The courtroom murmured as Zolam folded his arms. Yet these are the beings your court refuses to medically screen for psychological irregularities. Lieutenant Riven, the human representative, stood. Wide-shouldered with a uniform that looked slept in, he bore a forehead scar that suggested multiple encounters with unyielding door frames. "Test us if you want," he said calmly. "But I'll tell you now, the results will just confuse you. What you see as a breakdown in sanity, we call Tuesday." A Soran psychologist stepped forward, voice diplomatic. "Lieutenant, surely you understand. These behaviors don't align with any intergalactic norms of combat stress management or military decorum." Riven shrugged. "Ever heard of a sport called hockey? No? Then you're not ready to understand human stress management." Judge Morin, who had witnessed 2 galactic wars, a solar economic collapse and a petting zoo escape on Glam Prime, had never felt more confused in centuries of service. "I propose," he said slowly, "that we conduct a live analysis, a field. A test." The Tazari prosecutor looked horrified. Riven looked delighted. "You want us to show what we do under pressure?" "It must be controlled," the judge insisted. "A neutral. I suggest a standard simulation module." An hour later, Riven and 3 other soldiers entered a simulation pod. Their mission: rescue a stranded ambassador under hostile fire. They responded by immediately commandeering a janitorial cart, launching it down a hill, and converting it into a makeshift tank using dish soap, wires, and 2 thermoses. They recovered the ambassador in 12 minutes. The simulated enemy forces were either incapacitated, recruited, or emotionally overwhelmed by a poetry slam one of the humans organized mid-battle. The psychologist's notes were unreadable, partly because one of the soldiers had eaten his pen, and halfway through, Do you consider this acceptable combat behavior? Zolom demanded as the footage ended. Riven raised a hand. Let me ask you this. Did we lose? No, Judge Morin admitted. You won, somehow, every simulation. Then maybe, Riven said, cracking his knuckles, what you call madness is just efficiency with extra steps. The court erupted into argument. Delegates from the Gra Confederacy argued that human adaptability was a strength. The VL consulate insisted it was clear psychological malfunction. A lone Marek delegate asked if humans would be open to marriage alliances. Eventually, Judge Morin called for silence. The Interstellar Court finds that while human behavior is unconventional, it doesn't qualify as a psychological hazard. However, further studies will be commissioned. Riven leaned toward his fellow soldier. Told you they'd freak out? His companion grinned. Bet you 10 credits the Marek guy sends you flowers. A Tazari representative fainted in the back row. Thus, humans continued serving in the galactic forces, unscreened, unfiltered, unstoppable. Their next mission, escort a diplomat to a peace summit on a hostile moon. Riven cracked his knuckles. Again. Think they'll mind if we bring karaoke? The psychologist began drafting his resignation. Lieutenant Riven arrived on Muna 72, hauling a plastic crate filled with wires, karaoke discs, and a speaker system that doubled as an electromagnetic pulse bomb if someone forgot the auxiliary cord. He dragged it across the landing platform with childlike enthusiasm, humming an Earth tune about danger being his middle name. Though the diplomatic envoy had advised discretion, Riven had responded by distributing glow sticks to everyone. The moon's surface shimmered under its thin atmosphere, the terrain rocky and unpredictable, much like the local inhabitants, the Crowey. They had agreed to host the peace summit only after 6 failed attempts and 1 misunderstanding, where a salad was interpreted as a declaration of war. The Crowey were renowned for 2 things: their obsession with protocol and their complete inability to understand sarcasm, a dangerous combination when dealing with humans. As Riven and his squad approached the summit chamber, a Crowey guard extended a ceremonial blade to stop them. State your purpose and demonstrate respect according to Section 4 of the Ritual Concord. Riven held up a can of Earth soda. I offer carbonated tribute in the chorus of Earth's greatest emotional lamentations. Shall I cue Whitney Houston or Bohemian Rhapsody? The guard turned to his superior, utterly confused. After consulting a glowing crystal, the superior motioned them inside with a weary nod. The peace chamber was carved into a crater wall, acoustically, engineered to carry every word as though spoken by a deity or an overconfident human with a karaoke microphone. Representatives from 7 species sat in a ring, many wearing translator slugs and expressions of confusion. Riven strode to the center. Lieutenant Riven, Earth Armed Forces, host of tonight's entertainment and emotional regulation exercises. The crime mediator blinked slowly. This is not a concert. Everything's a concert if you try hard enough, Riven replied. General Keth of the Vogan Empire rose, eyes glowing faintly. Why is this human here? We came for diplomacy, not noise. Riven tossed him a plastic tambourine. You're going to want this later. The Earth ambassador arrived 5 minutes later, late by human standards and catastrophically offensive by Crowey ones. Riven attempted to smooth things over by offering popcorn and starting an impromptu campfire in the center ring. To everyone's astonishment, the summit proceeded. By the end of the first session, Riven had led a group breathing exercise that somehow transformed into a limbo contest, resolved a decades-old dispute between the Grow and the Skith by explaining the Earth concept of potluck dinners, and taught a Cray scribe how to toast marshmallows. The peace talks, scheduled for 8 hours, stretched to 24. No one left. The Verigan general grudgingly admitted that Eye of the Tiger possessed strategic motivational properties. The Grow diplomat wept while watching a human soldier perform Danny Boy over looped images of Earth's sunrise. The Cry, once so rigid, inquired whether Earth might share schematics for the inflatable couch. "Your people weaponize absurdity," Falk, a delegate, muttered during a break, watching Riven teach a rule how to moonwalk. "This madness is infectious." "Adaptability, friend," Riven replied. "Chaos is a feature, not a bug." Just as tensions began to soften, alarms blared. A rogue fleet entered the moon's orbit, mercenaries aligned with the Splinter Suns, a faction profiting from war who despised human diplomacy. Within minutes, the peace chamber shook under bombardment. Ambassadors scattered, guards took defensive positions, and Riven naturally cracked his knuckles and asked if there was an escape tunnel. "There is none," the Crowy guard said, eyes wide. "Perfect," Riven replied, retrieving a karaoke microphone. "We'll just make them regret coming in the first place." He gathered his team. "They think we're cornered." "Are we? Does it matter?" The squad nodded. Unstripped wires from the speakers and attached them to a plasma torch. Another broke karaoke discs into throwing stars. Riven removed the power converter from the karaoke system and reconfigured it into a sonic feedback generator. Within 15 minutes, they'd constructed 5 weapons, 3 decoys, and a communication scrambler using conference snacks and plastic tubing. Then the doors exploded inward. Mercenaries stormed the chamber, armored, armed, and laughing. They stopped laughing when the walls erupted in light and sound, with Riven charging forward behind a wave of sonic reverb and high-pitched feedback that shattered their communications systems. The humans moved as though at a dance party, dodging, flipping, redirecting laser blasts with improvised mirrors and tossing hot soup into ventilation shafts. One enemy screamed, slipping on a spilled drink. Another was knocked unconscious by a falling disco ball repurposed from the summit's Unity. Through dance section, the alien assault faltered. Riven vaulted over a table, kicked the last mercenary's weapon into the air, and caught it one-handed. "This one's for diplomatic immunity," he announced, slamming the weapon's butt into the attacker's helmet. Silence fell. Smoke drifted through the chamber as lights flickered. The Crowy leader stood slowly. "You defended the summit with party equipment." "We do more damage when we're bored," Riven replied. "Imagine if we were trying." The Varogan general growled, but with a new edge of respect in his voice. "You've made your point." A Crowy aide approached the judge's station, shakily raising a data pad. We need new protocol guidelines for future human engagements." "And an engineering team," added the Grow, "to study the couch." "Also," said Aro softly, "I'd like to request singing lessons." Riven smiled, bloodied but triumphant. "See, peace through chaos, humanity's real export." The court recorder sighed and continued typing. He'd abandoned trying to classify Earth's logic around the third bagpipe incident. 2 hours after the attack, the summit chamber resembled the aftermath of a wedding, concert, and small explosion combined. Broken furniture lay beside empty snack trays. Smoke wafted lazily near the rafters. A Rogan diplomat nursed a bruised rib with a bag of frozen peas Riven had provided. In the midst of the chaos, the Earth lieutenant was once again rewiring the karaoke speaker, this time to play Earth's national anthems from memory, just to set the mood. Judge Moran hovered into the chamber surrounded by security drones, his antennae twitching. "You dismantled a foreign assault team," he said slowly, surveying the scene, "with condiments, music, and folding chairs." Riven looked up, wiping grease from his fingers. "Don't forget the inflatable couch. That was key." The judge appeared ready to scream, but his species lacked vocal cords. Instead, he made a sound like 2 stones grinding in a blender. "I came here to assess psychological safety. I leave with 57 new legal precedents the galactic courts will require months to untangle. And yet, said the Crowy leader, stepping forward. "We've achieved peace." Riven raised an eyebrow. "Seriously?" The Crowy nodded. "The Splinter. Sun's attack forced us to unite. You humans accelerated the process, and your tactics, while erratic, proved effective. We've unanimously voted to sign the accord." Cheers erupted. Scattered applause transformed into rhythmic beats. Someone from the ski delegation blew a party whistle completely out of sync, but with undeniable enthusiasm. Even General Keth emitted a low grunt of approval. Riven blinked. "So we're good. No more tests? No more paperwork?" Judge Morin gestured helplessly. "Frankly, I fear what you might do if we did test you. The court withdraws its petition. The humans are to remain unscreened." One of Riven's squad members leaned in. "Should we tell him we built a flamethrower out of the buffet tray?" "Let's save that for the next summit." They reloaded their crate, now featuring an alien harmonica someone swore had healing properties, and a Crowy ceremonial blade that Riven had used to cut cheese cubes. As they boarded the shuttle, the Earth ambassador finally spoke. "You understand that what happened here will change how the galaxy sees us." Riven nodded. "They'll finally stop thinking we're the unstable ones." The ambassador coughed. "That's not what I meant." They lifted off as the chamber behind them filled with laughter, diplomatic chatter, and the faint echoes of a Crowy attempting to sing Sweet Caroline. Riven sank into his seat, hands behind his head. "You know," he said to no one in particular, "next time they call us crazy, I'm charging for the diagnostics." The shuttle vanished into the stars, trailing a chorus of confused but inspired allies, and one very bewildered AI struggling to update the interspecies mental health database to include Earth default variable.